Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. On the line with us, U.S. Senator Erick Schmitt of Missouri has a new book out, The Last Line of Defense, How to Beat the Left in Court. And if you go to the Breaking Battlegrounds X feed right now, DM us. Chuck will send you if you're one of the first 5, you get a free copy of the book. Definitely worth having. So check that out. Get that done. You're going to want this read.
Senator, in your book, you talk about censorship, and specifically, you talked about Missouri versus Biden and how this was the most important free speech case in American history. And to remind our listeners, the Biden world really did do censorship. They did it on the COVID lab leak theory. They did it on the Hunter Biden laptop. They did it on masks, and et cetera. Tell us about that case and why it's important for free speech.
Yeah, so the reason I wrote the book, Last Line of Defense, How We Beat the Left in Court, was I think it's easy to sort of believe that all of this was inevitable, right? That with all the great things we were talking about with President Trump, America's back, and we're talking about those things. But, there were some dark days, right? When President Trump's out of office, as allies are out of office, the left was truly on the march. It was a time of COVID lockdowns, of compulsory COVID shots, of mask mandates, of censorship, of ESG requirements, of DEI struggle sessions. All this stuff was in our face. And when I was a Missouri Attorney General, we stood up and we fought back against all of it, and we won. We took the vaccine mandate, to the Supreme Court. We won. We took the student loan debt forgiveness case to the Supreme Court, and we won. And we filed this Missouri versus Biden lawsuit that exposed this censorship enterprise. It was shocking. I mean, on day 3 of the administration, you read about it in the book, they began this. They started, deplatforming RFK Jr. They started going after people who had a different view on masks or vaccines or had a question about the election. I mean, this isn't like guesswork. Like, we got discovery that showed it. Reams and reams of emails and text messages and secret portals to social media companies. I mean, they were in this. And we had you could read about, we took the deposition of Anthony Fauci. We took the deposition of Elvis Chan, who was the FBI agent who was pre-bunking the Hunter Biden laptop story. They knew it was real. They had it in 2019, and they were acting like this was a Russian hack and leak operation to get it censored. And so you just can't let this happen again. This wasn't in some faraway place like we were talking about in Europe. This was here. And it really takes – so the book, Last Line of Defense, is really a playbook, honestly, for moving forward. So it's experiences of what we did to stop it then and expose it then. But also, this won't be the last time the left engages in this kind of sort of lawfare and tactics. And so we got to know how to push back and win. But I think the censorship piece for me, as somebody that really believes in free speech, was chilling. I mean, they were talking about creating a Ministry of Truth. It was the Disinformation Governance Board, And I think, we want to kind of memory hold that in some ways because it was such a weird time. But, you had police tape around playgrounds and you had censorship. And the guy working the forklift was going to lose his ability to provide for his family because he didn't want to take the COVID shot. You know what I mean? And they were lied to. It would prevent transmission. It didn't prevent transmission. And look, you can choose to take it, not take it. You can choose to wear a mask or not wear a mask. This is America. But the idea was that you're being forced to do all this is crazy.
Senator, so you hit on something there, and I want to kind of phrase this differently, but I think you could go back and say fairly, and my parents at the time lived in upstate New York, so I had the chance to see the difference between Arizona, Florida, and other red states, and then going to New York. 2021 in a blue state is what the left's vision of the future looks like.
Remember college? Well, now, college is over, and here comes your student loan debt. Is your private student loan debt keeping you up at night? You really need to talk to YRefi. YRefi refinances distressed or defaulted private student loans that others won't touch. They can save you thousands of dollars and get you a custom payment that you can afford. And they don't care what your credit score is. Don't let private student loan debt ruin your life. Call YRefi today.
Or is it?
Yeah.
Because that's pretty terrifying.
It is. And I think what COVID did was power doesn't necessarily corrupt, but it does reveal. And I think COVID revealed the very worst instincts of what the left would do, where you have an emergency, real or manufactured, you kind of cast out anybody that disagrees with you, and you silence dissent, and you create fear. And that's what they were doing. This isn't a white paper. We saw it happening. It is their playbook. So we have to have our own playbook which is why I wrote the book of how you fight back. And it takes some courage. I mean, I will tell you that, like, when we were suing 50-plus school districts in Missouri, the kitchen was pretty hot. But it was the right thing to do because there's no science behind this. Like, a kid was literally twice as likely to die from a dog attack than from COVID. But yet, these kids, the scarring that happened with being out of school and that kind of stuff. I mean, there were kids that were being forced to eat lunch by themselves on a stage because they refused to wear a mask. In Missouri, not in upstate New York, or, in Missouri. And kids were doing privilege walks and all this crazy BS that was going on that we can't forget about it, and we got to make sure it doesn't happen again. And so the book kind of really takes you behind the scenes of the messages we got in from parents, and then what did we do about it? What it was, the preparation for Fauci, how we kind of sort of caught him in a bunch of lies. Like, for example, he, a friend emails him in April of 2020. She's about ready to get on a flight. And she said, says to her friend Fauci, hey, I know there's a lot of discussion about this. Do I need to wear a mask on the plane? And he goes, of course not. Masks are totally ineffective. And then meanwhile, he's on the podium telling everybody you can't go to work or you can't go to school without a mask on. So it's just
why?
A wild and crazy
why
time.
did he do it? I mean, I mean, should the man be in jail, or was he crazy? I mean, why did he go and have this two-faced approach to masks, for example?
Well, I think if you take and we talked about the lab leak in the deposition too. The truth is, the United States of America said we don't want to do gain of function research in 2014. Well, Fauci really was working with these NGOs to finance it somewhere else that happened to be the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China. So he really believed he knew better. And that's the danger of the class of quote-unquote experts, right? And when you empower the experts to rule over you, this is what you get. We're a republic where we have elected representatives where if you don't like what I do, you can vote me out or you can send me back, but there's some accountability. There's no accountability for Fauci. There should be now.
Yeah.
But I think then also it morphed into, I mean, they had Fauci candles.
Right.
Like he became the yin to Trump's yang, right? Like the left, they wanted him to be right and Trump to be wrong, and he felt that. And so he would go on TV, and whatever he said was the science. And it was a scary time. And I can tell you in the deposition, he didn't like to have his authority questioned, and that came out. And he also, a court reporter, you can read about, I don't want to give away everything in the book, but the court reporter sneezed, and he asked her to put a mask on. This is in November of 2022. This is 2.5 years later. So anyway,
Senator, we have 1 minute left. What do you think are the top 2, 3 most important legislative items that the Senate and the House need to get passed on President Trump's desk the next year?
Well, I think we've got the one big, beautiful bill. That was big. I did the rescissions package. That was big. I hope we do more of those. I hope we continue to find waste and fraud and abuse and cut it out. And then from a national security perspective, I think we actually have to really focus on China and make sure we have the ability to have the weapon systems necessary for the future in the Indo-Pacific, which is very different than a land war in Europe. So I think those are a couple of things. But I think, staying focused on free speech and also the real concerns of working people. We're a realigned party now that's a multi-ethnic working class party, and we need to fight for those folks every single day.
Fantastic. Senator, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on the program. Folks, follow Senator Erick Schmitt on X at Erick_Schmitt and check out his new book. It really is very good. Check that out at Amazon, The Last Line of Defense, How to Beat the Left in Court, available right now